Summarize the novel, Don Quixote. Author, Miguel de Cervantes. Chapter 1, The Nobleman Obsessed with Chivalric Tales. In the arid region of La Mancha, Spain, an aging nobleman named Alonso Quixano lives a quiet, solitary life in his modest home, surrounded by dusty shelves of ancient chivalric romances. He spends day and night engrossed in these tales of knights and damsels, reading until his eyes blur and his mind unravels, losing sleep and sanity, eventually convincing himself that he must become a wandering knight to revive the golden age of chivalry, despite his frail age and the modern world's indifference. He adopts the name Don Quixote de la Mancha, gathering a rusty suit of armor, a scrawny horse he names Rocinante, and a makeshift helmet crafted from cardboard. With unwavering determination, he declares his mission to roam the land, perform noble deeds, protect the weak, and fight for honor, envisioning himself as a legendary knight in a world that has long moved on from such ideals. Don Quixote imagines a muse, Dulcinea del Toboso, actually Aldonza Lorenzo, a coarse peasant girl he has never met, as a divine lady of unparalleled beauty. He vows to fight for her love and glory, elevating her to a goddess in his mind, though she remains a figment of his fantasy, a symbol of his chivalric devotion. His delusions reflect a deep yearning to live by noble ideals in a pragmatic world, but they also reveal his naivety and disconnection. Cervantes begins with humor, subtly hinting at the tragedy of a soul lost between reality and dreams, setting the stage for a journey filled with unexpected twists and poignant revelations. Chapter 2, The First Journey and Harsh Reality. Don Quixote sets off quietly, informing no one, his heart brimming with chivalric zeal. He stops at a dilapidated inn, which he imagines as a grand castle with towering turrets and noble lords. The innkeeper, a rough man with a gruff demeanor, is bewildered but plays along, humoring the old man by staging a mock knighting ceremony, complete with a comical oath, to satisfy his guests' delusions. During the ceremony, the innkeeper strikes Don Quixote's shoulder with a stick, reciting improvised lines, convincing the nobleman he is now a true knight. Don Quixote departs, eager for adventure, but reality soon delivers a cruel blow, shattering his illusions with the harshness of the world he fails to see through his chivalric lens. He encounters two muleteers, believing they insult Dulcinea when they refuse to praise her beauty without seeing her. The argument escalates into violence, and the muleteers beat him mercilessly, leaving him bloodied and unconscious by the roadside, his armor dented, while they walk away, laughing at his absurdity, mocking his outdated ideals. A kind peasant recognizes him and brings him home in a pitiful state, his body bruised and spirit shaken. Yet, Don Quixote remains unshaken in his belief, blaming enchanters for his defeat, revealing his stubborn blindness to reality's harsh lessons, a poignant mix of humor and tragedy in his unyielding faith. Chapter 3, Don Quixote recruits Sancho Panza. Despite his injuries, Don Quixote refuses to abandon his dream, determined to continue his chivalric quest. He persuades Sancho Panza, a poor, portly peasant living nearby, to become his squire, promising that if they succeed, Sancho will govern an island as a noble count, a lofty reward that sparks the peasant's interest. Sancho, practical and somewhat greedy, is skeptical of the old man's sanity but is swayed by the promise of wealth and status. He agrees to join, riding his donkey Dapple with a sack of meager belongings, embarking on the journey with Don Quixote, forming a duo of stark contrasts, the mad idealism of a knight and the grounded realism of a peasant. Their relationship becomes a literary icon. Don Quixote lives in a world of chivalric fantasy, while Sancho views life through pragmatic folk wisdom. Sancho's proverbs, like "Don't wake a sleeping dog," often carry a deeper truth, highlighting his grounded nature, though he still dreams of the promised riches that fuel his initial motivation. They complement each other. Don Quixote inspires with his fervor, while Sancho protects him from reckless danger. Over time, Sancho grows loyal, developing a deep fondness for Don Quixote, transforming from a profit-driven follower into a true companion, a bond that becomes the heart of their shared journey. Chapter 4, The Battle with Windmills and Dangerous Delusions. During their travels, Don Quixote spots windmills on a field and mistakes them for monstrous giants with flailing arms. He charges into battle, lance raised, shouting defiance, but the windmill's blades hurl him to the ground, leaving him battered, his armor crumpled. Sancho protests, explaining they're just windmills, but Don Quixote insists enchanters deceived him. His delusions persist, he attacks a flock of sheep, believing they're an enemy army, only to be beaten by shepherds. He frees a girl under escort, actually a runaway, causing her recapture. He liberates prisoners, thinking them unjustly jailed, but they rob him in return. At Basilio and Quitteria's wedding, he tries to stop the ceremony, believing the bride is forced. These illusions, both comical and perilous, cause chaos. Don Quixote sees the world through a chivalric lens, but his actions wreak havoc. Cervantes uses these events to expose his naivety, while subtly revealing the beauty in his desire to live nobly, even if misplaced in a cynical age. Sancho, loyal yet worried, tries to restrain his master, his concern growing as Don Quixote sinks deeper into fantasy. Yet, his fondness for the old knight deepens, seeing the sincerity in his madness, a poignant contrast between dream and reality that defines their journey. Chapter 5, Don Quixote defeated, yet unawakened. Don Quixote and Sancho press on, encountering a group of merchants on the road. He demands they acknowledge Dulcinea's beauty, but they refuse, insisting they must see her first. Enraged, Don Quixote charges, only to be brutally beaten, left motionless by the roadside, blood streaming from his face, his lance shattered. A familiar peasant recognizes him and brings him home in a wretched state, his armor broken, body bruised, Rocinante limping beside him. His family, deeply concerned, burns his chivalric books and seals the library, hoping to break his obsession and bring him back to reality after years of delusion. Yet Don Quixote remains unchanged. He blames enchanters for destroying his books to thwart his noble mission, still convinced he's a true knight. His family's efforts fail to pull him from his fantasy, their frustration mounting as they watch him cling to his shattered dreams with unwavering faith. Cervantes blends mockery with sympathy for a soul lost in illusion. Sancho, though anxious, stays by his side, his loyalty and affection for Don Quixote growing stronger, seeing the old man's heart despite his folly, a bond that deepens as they face the harsh realities together. Chapter 6, Quirky Adventures, and Bitter Laughter. Don Quixote and Sancho continue their journey, meeting diverse figures, priests, merchants, actors, and swindlers. Each encounter sparks a misunderstanding. Don Quixote mistakes priests for sorcerers, merchants for foes, and at Basilio and Quitteria's wedding, he tries to halt the ceremony, believing the bride is coerced, only to cause chaos. In the Montesinos cave, he claims to see enchanted visions. He faces beatings and humiliation but remains convinced he's upholding chivalric honor, fighting for justice in a world he imagines. Sancho, initially driven by greed, grows increasingly attached, sometimes swept into the delusions, yet his practical nature keeps him grounded, saving Don Quixote from greater harm. These tales are both humorous and bitter. Don Quixote lives in an idealized world, but reality constantly disproves him. Cervantes uses his innocence to mock, yet also to praise his persistence and belief in goodness, however misguided, in an era that has forsaken such ideals. Readers laugh at the absurdity, but a quiet sadness emerges. Don Quixote symbolizes the longing to live nobly. Sancho's loyalty deepens, his affection for Don Quixote turning into genuine care, seeing the old knight's sincerity, a testament to their evolving bond amidst the comical yet tragic journey. Chapter 7, Meeting the Duke and Duchess, a Cruel Jest. Don Quixote and Sancho are invited to the castle of a wealthy duke and duchess, who welcome them only to mock their naivety. They orchestrate cruel pranks, staging a princess rescue, an exorcism where Don Quixote rides a wooden horse he believes flies, and other tricks that leave him injured, all while they laugh behind his back. The Duke appoints Sancho as governor of a small village, a jest meant to see him fail. Yet Sancho, despite his simplicity, governs justly, resolving disputes with folk wisdom, earning the villagers' respect. After a few days, he resigns, realizing the true value of a simple, honest life over hollow titles. Don Quixote, lost in his delusions, believes he's performing noble deeds, unaware he's a pawn in their game. The pranks not only cause physical pain but also wound his spirit, exposing society's cruelty toward dreamers, as the nobles exploit his innocence for their amusement. Cervantes contrasts manipulated ideals with distorted reality. The Duke and Duchess represent a cynical world mocking purity. Sancho, through this ordeal, grows more loyal, his affection for Don Quixote deepening as he witnesses the old man's suffering, a bond forged through shared trials and the harshness of others' jests. Chapter 8, The Knight of the White Moon, Don Quixote's Defeat. Don Quixote faces the Knight of the White Moon, actually Samson Carrasco, a friend disguised, in a duel on a desolate field. Samson, urged by the family, aims to end Don Quixote's delusions by defeating him, hoping to force him back to reality and a safer, more grounded life. The duel is intense. Don Quixote, frail but fervent, charges with zeal, his old armor clanking, but the Knight of the White Moon swiftly overpowers him, knocking him to the ground in a cloud of dust. Bound by his word, Don Quixote must return home and live peacefully for a year, ceasing his knightly quests. This defeat is more than physical, it's a spiritual blow. For the first time, Don Quixote doubts himself, his eyes hollow as he departs the battlefield, Rocinante trudging beside him. Samson offers no mockery, but his pitying gaze wounds Don Quixote deeply, the chivalric dream he clung to beginning to crumble under reality's weight. Cervantes portrays Don Quixote's downfall as a tragedy. He's not ridiculed, but the collapse of his belief shatters his spirit. Sancho, ever loyal, walks beside him, his heart heavy with concern, his affection for Don Quixote now a deep bond, forged through their shared struggles and the old man's unyielding faith. Chapter 9, Return to the Homeland, the Dissolution of Dreams. Don Quixote returns to La Mancha, silent and broken, no longer the wandering knight. He abandons the title of Don Quixote, reverting to Alonso Quixano, his passion for chivalric tales extinguished, spending his days in bed, eyes vacant, as if his soul has faded with the dream he once lived for. His family and friends try to comfort him, sharing cheerful stories and memories, but he no longer believes in his knightly vision. He advises Sancho to live practically, shunning fanciful dreams, a late awakening from a man who spent years lost in fantasy, now weighed down by regret and disillusionment. Their friendship reaches its deepest point, no longer master and servant, they are two souls bound by shared trials. Sancho, heartbroken, stays by his side, attempting to rekindle the dream, reminiscing about their adventures, but Alonso only shakes his head, his gaze filled with sorrow, as if he's lost his reason to live. Cervantes uses this collapse to depict the tragedy of a dreamer. When illusions shatter, Don Quixote ceases to be himself. Sancho's loyalty and growing affection shine through, his grief palpable as he realizes their journey has ended, leaving a void where their shared dream once thrived. Chapter 10, Death and Legacy of a Dreamer. Alonso Quixano falls gravely ill after renouncing his chivalric dream, his body weakening, his spirit crushed, vitality drained by the loss of purpose. On his deathbed, he rejects all illusions, calling them madness and apologizing to his family for his folly, his voice faint, eyes dimming, filled with remorse for a life lost in fantasy. Sancho, with unwavering loyalty, tries to revive the dream, recalling their adventure in the Montesinos cave, where Don Quixote claimed to see enchanted wonders, but Alonso only offers a sad smile. He dies quietly, leaving Sancho in anguish, mourning the companion who gave him the most meaningful days of his life, tears falling silently. Alonso's death marks the end of an era of chivalric ideals, but Don Quixote endures beyond the grave. He lives on in readers' memories as a symbol of the desire to live nobly, despite being out of place in a pragmatic world, a figure both foolish and noble, forever etched in literary history. Cervantes leaves a profound legacy. Don Quixote embodies the dreamer, laughable yet pitiable, absurd yet admirable. The novel is not just a tragicomedy but a tribute to dreams, however unattainable, resonating as a timeless reflection on the beauty and fragility of human aspiration.